Okay, so I hung these light stringers up. They look really cool at night, creating a little atmosphere out here in the backyard. I wanted to see them burning last night, so I just kind of temporaried them in, and I'm gonna go ahead and make that a permanent situation now. So here we go. All right, so the end of my tape is just past that string right there, and we're looking at about 33 inches to the edge of that box. We're gonna call that close enough. We do have an obstacle here, and that's this piece of wood, the wall there. What I need to do, counting for that box right there, to get into that knockout on the side there, that's about a 1/4 inch. And then there's about close to a 1/2 inch on the back side of our strap. So we're gonna put an 1.5 inch kick on our 33-inch 90. As a further complication, these 2x4s that are running across this way, so I'll need to offset down a bit as well. So, all right, so I got my connector in my box, and you're not an electrician if you don't take the knockout from the box and you remove it and hide it somewhere nearby so the next guy can find it. And there you go. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bend that little offset to get underneath the 2x4 that's running this way. I'll put a mark 3 inches to keep the conduit from egging going into the connector. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but I have a 3/4 inch bender and a piece of 1/2 inch conduit. And the reason this happened, I was going to run this in 3/4 because I have a 3/4 inch bender, but they didn't have any 3/4 inch conduit, so I'm doing this in 1/2 inch. I'm just going to bend my offset now. I don't need a lot, and that looks like plenty for what I need right now. So make sure you don't dog it, line it up good straight line. And there's my bent piece, got an offset in it, plenty big enough for what I need. Now, the take up for my 90 on a 1/2 inch conduit with a 1/2 inch bender would be 5 inches. However, as I mentioned, I have a 3/4 inch bender. So the take up on the offset on a 3/4 inch bender is 6 inches. So I've got to use that measurement because that's how big this shoe is. Hope that makes sense. All right, now there's my mark at 34 inches. There's my mark 6 inches away from that. For Christ's sake, make your mark in pencil and make it all the way around. That will avoid you some good old adult ass chewings. We all need less of those. So my offset, it needs to come down so I can get underneath the 2x4 that's running perpendicular to the house. And that's how I have it oriented. I have my line that I made all the way around the pipe right there on the arrow. To make sure it's not dogged right now, make sure it's in a straight line. I'm gonna start my bend here. Flip my bend up. Keep steady pressure with your foot, otherwise you'll kink the pipe. And that's another adult ass chewing that you do not want. Get her close, pull out your level. Ain't even in the bubble yet. There it is. Dead nuts. I nearly forgot my 1.25 inch kick. Why, that's just fucking perfect. The NEC says you need to support your conduit within 3 feet of a box. Honestly, with as short as this run is, I could probably put one in the middle and cover both of those. But I'm gonna go ahead and mark one up for here. Just put a mark on both sides of your pipe. And I'm gonna go ahead and mark one up for here. Drill your hole in the middle. Then with a 5/16 nut driver, just drive your tap con in. You're gonna need a hot leg, a neutral leg, and a ground. Take the ground with your wire strippers and bend it over like that. Believe me, you'll save yourself plenty of adult ass chewings. Your wingspan's likely at least 5 feet. Once you got your wires taped together, our little run there is less than 10 feet, but we're gonna do 2 full arm lengths anyway, just to make sure. The last thing you want is an adult ass chewing for not having enough wire. Push your wire in from the top to the bottom. You're not gonna need a fish tape for this. It ain't but 10 feet, unless you are terrible at running conduit, and I'm not. Okay, so as I said, I'm not terrible at running conduit. That shoved right through there pretty easily. got plenty left up there to work with. The code book says you need 6 inches of working conductor in the box. Certainly have that. Learn these things. That's about 6 inches right there between the tip of your thumb to the tip of your pinky. Learn this. Learn this as well. It's going to be my ground wire in my box. I'm going to strip this much maybe off. So it looks a little something like that. I want to go ahead and grab me another bite here. Pull that out to the end. This is going to go over my ground screw, and it's going to keep this wire from doing that. There you go. You see that? You see how that looks? It's what you want. Weatherproof box. GFCI outlet has to be the first outlet in line. The outlet that'll be beside it will be running off of the load side of our GFCI outlet. All right, here's the scoop. Running out of daylight. I always remember this little rhyme. Black to brass will save your ass. You will hook this up in this order. Ground first, then neutral, then hot. And when you're unhooking it, you will unhook it in the exact reverse order of that. You will unhook the hot first, then the neutral, and then the ground. That's to keep your little wee ass from getting electrocuted. Don't be stupid. Put a wrap of tape around it. Cover the screws on both devices, on all devices. Put a wrap of tape around it. All right, so it got late on me last night, and I realized that I was gonna want to be able to control that floodlight on its own, independent of my stringers here. So I had to run another wire down. I had to split it up. I'll explain that as I do it. All right, so my new wire that I had to pull this morning, this one, runs straight through, hits the load side. Now, when you're hooking up a single pole light switch, it doesn't matter. There's no line and load side. However, when you're hooking up a bigger switch, a bigger disconnect, the line side is always going to go into the top. The next idiot you're working with, he might not care. This idiot does care. So land the line side on the top and the load side at the bottom. The wire that I initially pulled and landed on my GFI before I decided to get fancy and have a couple of switches out here, that wire is spliced here, and that is going to be the line side of both of our switches. That is going to power both of our switches here. The load side of this switch is going to feed our GFI and our other outlet. Remember the tape. The tape's very important. When that next idiot comes in there, opens that up to work on it, and he grabs a hold of the screws and that tape's on there, he's gonna be very grateful. All right, so there it is. There's our outlets. And when it gets dark tonight, we'll turn it all on and see how I did. Okay, so we got a light rain out here in St. Louis, and for anyone who watched the rain barrel setup video, I am happy to report that I'm fairly certain that my setup here is working great. I'm getting pure rainwater in there. And now I need to check to see if the wiring for our Twinkle Lights, as Tana likes to call them, works. So I'm gonna throw this switch on the left because the floods are on the left. And those came on. And I'll throw the switch on the right because the Twinkle Lights are on the right. It seems to have worked. We'll see you next time.
And would you believe there are people who come to me for advice? I'm driving fast as the